Today, we're talking about how to get your team to stop dumping every single problem, even the tiny ones, on your desk. Look, the reason even founders that are between $1.5 and $5 million still get stuck is because it feels like they have to retrain the same people doing the same thing every single day. So, how do you actually get your team to do the things that you delegate them and to do it in the way that you want it to be done? So today we're going to go through a 4-part framework I call the DONE framework because acronyms help me remember things. DONE, as if I'm done doing this task and I'm going to hand it off to my team so they finally take care of it. By the end of the video, you're going to understand exactly how to pull this off, and you're going to be able to free up a little bit of time because you're going to have your team start doing some of the things that you've wanted them to do for a long time. By the way, my name is Brent, and I run a company that does just under $2 million a year with 34% net profit. And I do that in about 90 minutes per week. The rest of the time, I help other founders of companies that are between $1.5 and $5 million take off between 12 and 15 hours every single week of the junk work they don't need so they can focus more on working on the business instead of constantly working in the business. So let's get down to the framework, this DONE framework, which starts with D. And you would think that might be delegate, but that would be way too simple. It's demonstrate. So when we hand off a task, there can be this tendency to just say, all right, I'm going to show you once in about 5 minutes, and then I expect you to be able to handle this task going on for now into perpetuity. But the reality of it is that if we're not adequately demonstrating what we want to have done, the manner in which we want to have it done, and the end result that the doneness provides, then we're obviously going to end up having questions. And we need to do a better job of demonstrating, or rather, you need to do a better job of demonstrating this if you're struggling getting people to do the work that you already have them paid to do. So when we demonstrate, I've found it really, really helpful to demonstrate in a number of different modalities because when I struggled to have people do the work that I wanted them to do, that I delegated to them, it was because I was only explaining it in one modality. I would sit there with them in my office and I would explain, this is what needs to be done. And I might turn my screen around and show them the work on the computer if that's where it was going down. And I would do that once, and then I would expect them to get it. And I started to see lift in not having people come back to me as much when I started giving them information in a number of different ways. And we'll talk about how you can go about doing that. But let's look at the number of ways that you can train somebody to do the work you need them to do, because everybody learns different ways. We've got auditory learners where people are best at listening to something. We've got experiential learners where they're best when they're doing something and like practicing the thing. And then we've got other people that learn better in watching videos. So we've got to think through all the different ways that somebody might learn and then produce all those different ways of the specific task that we're delegating when we're demonstrating to our fullest potential. So for example, if I was delegating a task, I might demonstrate that task once on doing a quick Loom video showing somebody how to do it. I want to record that video once and then have it pay off forever. But I might also strip the audio from that video. There's a number of different tools that you can use for AI online that will allow you to strip the audio directly from a video. So now we've got an audio and they can listen to the audio if they would prefer to do that. I might also take that audio, load that audio into ChatGPT, because you can attach audio to ChatGPT, and say, give me a written summary of what this said. Because now I've got it in writing. And then once I've got those 3 modalities that they can listen to on their own or watch on their own or read on their own, then I'm going to have a meeting with them to explain what's going on. Because now I've got 4 different modalities that somebody can go to and learn the thing that I want them to learn, and they can go back and reference it instead of coming back to me. Because that was one of the most frustrating things. After I would explain something, the person would keep coming back to me, and I realized that was my fault because they didn't have anything to reference. There was nothing they could go to on their own and say like, oh, okay, this is how I go about doing it, because I didn't do a good job of demonstrating what it was. So demonstrate is the first part in this DONE framework. Let's move on to O. O is optimize. We've got to optimize the process that we demonstrated. So far, we've gone through and we've shown somebody what to do, but that doesn't mean that we're just finished with this whole process. We've got to see how they do it based on what we demonstrated. Because what I've found is I can think that I am super clear in what I'm communicating to somebody, but it doesn't always land the way that I want it to land, and they don't always understand it the way that I think they should. And that's not because they're stupid, and it's not because I'm stupid. It's because different people use different language to get it. And if you've ever had like a coach that has told you something and you're like, it just doesn't make sense. And then somebody else tells you the same thing, like a different coach, and you're like, oh yeah, I get it now. It's just because different people resonate with different messages in different ways at different times. And so when we optimize what we demonstrated, we've got to watch the person that we're delegating to do the task. And sometimes that can be painful, especially if we have like a 30 or 45-minute task. We've got to sit there and just watch them do it. Don't answer questions. The big deal is you're going to want to jump in and help, and you don't need to jump in and help. What you need to do is let them make mistakes, because that's going to tell you what you need to optimize in a demonstration going forward. We're just looking to see, what did they get right and what did they screw up? Because what they screwed up is the thing they're going to come back to you and ask you about in the future. So you might as well just sit there once, watch them do it, see what they screwed up, see how they learn, then go back, optimize, and you're going to fix it in either SOP, or you're going to fix it in a Loom video, or ideally, you're going to do both of those things, because again, we're going with multimodality to have people learn what it is you want them to learn so they don't come back to you. Look at this like an investment. And I realize that it's so much easier, especially when there's a million things coming at you, to just fix something really quick and give it back to somebody. But if you want this off your plate long term, you've got to make the investment of time on the front end in teaching somebody how to do that, which, if you don't have any time, if you're working 50 or 60 hours a week and you're like, listen, I don't have time to teach people how to do anything, I just have to get it done, the first thing we got to do is take the pressure off. So if you want to get 3 hours of junk work freed up and off your plate and off your calendar this week, I offer a free 48-hour Founder Time Reset, which is a series of tools and brief trainings that are going to help you get 3 hours off your calendar this week. And it's going to help you keep those calendars off. Just click a link in the description of this video and it'll take you right to that. You can download that and work on the protocol for free. Usually within 3 days, most people find 3 to 5 hours of work that they can cut off of their task list or their calendar simply by using the tools that I put in place for that. But let's get back to the framework. So we've gone through D, which is demonstrate. We've gone through O, which is optimize. Now we've got N, which is numbers. So often, I didn't ever think of, how do I measure performance and success of a specific task that I'm delegating? And the reason for that is because I was doing the task to start, and I never really needed a measure of success, or at least I told myself I didn't need a measure of success because I was dealing with like 15 other things at the same time. And so I probably didn't just put in place. But when you hand something off, it's much easier to understand how things are going if there's some way that you can measure the performance and the success of the task when somebody else is doing it. And so with this, we've got to get away from gut feelings, because if you feel like somebody's doing a good job or you feel like somebody's doing a bad job, then you really don't know. Right? You just feel that. What we want to be able to do is we want to be able to point back very clearly and say, this was a success or not. And if you haven't figured this out yet, all these things in the framework, they build on each other. If we demonstrated it well and we optimized it well, then whatever measurements we put in for success, those measurements are going to get hit. This tells us how well we did in our first 2 steps to figure out, hey, what do we need to optimize even further? What do we need to demonstrate even more clearly? Because that will tell us, really, is this thing kind of hand it off? Is this something that we really don't have to pay attention to much anymore? Because I mentioned earlier that I spend about 90 minutes a week on my company, which is in the commercial real estate services play. And most of that 90 minutes is just spent looking at numbers of people that are doing tasks. So, the question is, how do I measure things that seem unmeasurable? And that was really difficult for me to wrap my brain around. And so I had to go back out and learn a bunch of stuff about this. But if you've got somebody that's in customer service, how do you measure customer service? Well, one of the ways that we do that in my company is by our net promoter score, which is a simple equation that we use to figure out what percentage of our clients would recommend us to somebody else. That's a net promoter score. And that's the way that we measure our customer service reps, because we know they're doing a good job when our net promoter score is as high as we want it to be. So you set the standard of measurement that terms what the success for that particular task is, and you wind up having a lot better performance in that task. Business is one giant math problem at every single level. There's the obvious math problem of profit, loss, and what's going on your balance sheet and the snapshot in time. But there's a math problem at every single level, and that math problem is best when it's able to get measured. Because when it gets measured, it gets done, but it also gets improved. And that's a massive thing that will help you pull things completely off of your desk and never have them come back, is just simply looking at the measurement of this, because then everybody knows the standard. Speaking of which, let's get to the E, which is the final part of the framework, which is expectations. When I started delegating very, very early on, my delegation was abysmal. It was go make them happy. That was literally what I would tell people. Go, hey, just make the client happy. I don't care how you do it. Just go make them happy. And I think I did it that way because I was drowning and I was so busy and I was working 60 plus hours a week. It was I didn't feel like I had time to tell them how to do it, which looking back on it, of course, I was setting those people up for failure and setting myself up for failure. But we can't just say, make them happy. We've got to build on this whole thing, because remember, each part of the framework builds on the next, is what are the metrics that they need to hit in order to be considered successful in the job that they're doing. I mentioned net promoter score for the customer service reps, but maybe it's error rate when it comes to your accounting team, or maybe it's error rate when it comes to packing and shipping or whatever, right? You got to come up with whatever the expectation is that they need to hit, based on what you see as the numbers that they need to have from when you set those. So your expectation needs to be about those. You also need to be very clear about when they need to hit the numbers. So it's not just what happens, it's when it happens. And by the way, if this sounds really simple, I'm gonna have you consider that maybe it's not, because you're watching this video because the message hit you that it's hey, how do we get this stuff off of your calendar and never come back, and your team doesn't ask you for all these questions? It might be because you missed the step that seems obvious, which it's super easy to do when you're a founder, because you've got a million other things and a million other problems that are going on. It's easy to miss what we think is normal and ordinary. It's easy to, because one, you're highly skilled. You wouldn't be in the position you're in if you weren't highly skilled. You're highly motivated. Same thing. You wouldn't be in that position if you weren't highly motivated. So it's really easy to miss these little steps because you're good and you're motivated. All the people that work for you, they're somewhere below that. They're not as good as you. If they were as good as you and had the same motivation and the same skill set and the same smarts, they'd be starting their own company, but they're not. And so we need to remember that not everybody's Superman, right? So what they need to do, when they need to do it. And then the big thing that really pulled this stuff off of my desk forever was, how do they report? So when a task is delegated, what's the reporting mechanism that tells me the task was actually done? This is the massive part that changes the entire game, because they just send me a report with the numbers that are based on the expectation, and I know if it's getting done or if it's not getting done. And that tells me if I need to go back and do a different demonstration or a different level of optimization inside this entire framework. So done framework in its entirety. First is demonstrate. Second, optimize. Third is we've got to attach numbers to it. And fourth is we've got to attach expectations of what the person is able to hit. So man, if you're a founder, it can certainly feel like, and I get this, it's tough to pull yourself out of working in the business so you can get some space to work on the business, or maybe just take a vacation without having to be on your laptop all the time. The first step to be able to do that is just to get a little bit of time and space to think. And that's exactly why I built the 48-hour founder time reset. It's a free resource, and it is a tool and a framework that you use right away to be able to pull 3 hours of junk work off of your plate this week. It's not like you have to go in and learn something that is really complicated. I built the tool already as a diagnostic to help you understand where your time is going and really where you can just redistribute that time to get more lift in your business or just more rest for yourself. If you want to grab the 48-hour founder time reset, just go ahead and hit the link in the description of this video and you go to the website and download that for free. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one.